Hi everyone, this is Dan, and today going to be looking at some more cards, mainly baseball cards, a lot of vintage stuff. So this is what I kind of call my box. So this is some of my favorite cards, not always the most valuable ones, though there are certainly some pretty valuable ones. Cards that I don't consider players that I necessarily PC. That I PC a lot of more so I'd say modernish players. Um, Trout and Mookie Betts and Machado and Bryce Harper, Peyton Manning. And these are other cards that I've just liked over time and kind of wanted from when I was a kid. A lot of these I bought kind of earlier on. 2004, I collected for kind of a short amount of time, but some of the cards are from them, and some of the cards are just more recent. So going to just roll through these in no specific order. First one, Mike Schmidt. This is an SGC 8. Always like Schmidt. Kind of miss him without that mustache. The mustache seems very 70s-ish to me. It kind of looks like you'd get a free Trans Am or something if you walk into a dealership with that mustache that he had. Here is a Harmon Killebrew, also SGC. I generally like SGC. I trust them more than PSA, especially for vintage stuff. It's a 7.5. It's a nice crisp looking card. I really like that card. Probably lots of viewers read Ball 4 by, God, I can't remember his name now, but, he was called the little fat man or something like that, Harmon Killebrew, but I like home run hitters, and he was definitely one of them. Walter Payton, here's an SGC, 7.5, so definitely have some football and some basketball here, but it's kind of a nice card. Walter Payton, obviously an amazing running back, and seemed like he was a great guy. Here is Eddie Murray. Again, not the most valuable card. This is in one of those older ones. This is an 8.5 in SGC, but a 3,000 hit, 500 home run club. Great player. Cool card. Just like it. Definitely one of the cards that I kind of liked when I was younger. Here is one of my, you can see it back there too. I have a few cards back there being displayed. Frank Robinson. This one's off center. I know the vintage guys. I will say vintage guys because obviously most of them are probably middle-aged white guys with disposable income to buy sports cards, and they'll say they don't like the off-center stuff. I'd actually rather have a card a little off-center than with rounded corners. This one has some snow. I think the 57 is known for getting a lot of snow on it. But I love Frank Robinson. I think he was an awesome player. Remember as a kid, going to a card shop. I was a kid in the 80s, and back then there wasn't grading, so you'd just kind of, thumb through cards. They'd be in top loaders, and his cards were always sort of beaten up. And I had bought a couple of cards back then, or the guys at the card shop telling me about him. He was a manager by the time I was a kid. But those guys like Hank Aaron and Frank Robinson, and kind of just before my era, they were really old and had left, retired from the game. But one of the ones that I still have some connection to. Some of the much older players, like Babe Ruth. Babe Ruth almost seems like a fictional character to me. Lou Gehrig obviously has amazing stories associated with them, but not only the card's expensive, but I don't really feel anything for them. Ty Cobb's, they just look like super old. Here's kind of the iconic Magic and Bird rookie. It's only in a 6.5. This is one of the ones I'd potentially consider cracking, trying to send to PSA, see if I could get maybe a 7 on it. But who knows? Not a huge basketball fan, and that card is in particular. I remember as a kid having that and not being a huge fan of it. Another basketball here is 86, the iconic 86 set. Don't have the Jordan, but I have a couple other cards that I bought way back in 2004. There's Karl Malone. Here's an 8.5. Some of these I bought years ago and sent them in to be graded when I got back into collecting. I collected for very short, about when I was a kid, and then 2004 for about 9 months, bought a bunch of cards, threw them in a safe, and then opened it up like 15 years later, which was pretty fun. I'd actually lost the key, and then found it when there's all the news during the pandemic, searching the house, and literally was the last key I found in this drawer of keys. Opened it up. It was sort of like finding a little treasure chest and all these cards, Yaz rookies, and lots of Peyton Manning cards, some of the junk wax stuff, some Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, Carlton Fisk rookies, a lot of old Red Sox rookies cards that I wanted back then. Some football too. Speaking of football, here's one of the little players I like, Gale Sayers. I just love that pose. He didn't win the Heisman Trophy, but was an amazing player. Have a PSA 5 of this one also. Off-centered. Here we go. Here's one of the older cards. Here's a Yogi Berra 5. I just thought I mean, obviously people know his lots of his funny sayings. You know, it's not only over till the fat lady sings, and what is it, like baseballs, I don't know, something about mental, I can't remember exactly what it is, but lots of funny sayings. But he was amazing. He had 3 MVPs and 10 World Series rings. I think he has the most World Series rings ever. And they spoke to the old Yankees coaches, and they said they would have rather had, you know, they felt Yogi was more valuable than Mantle. Again, I never understood the infatuation with Mantle, but really like Yogi Berra. This one's off center. I might send this to SQC to get the new slab on it, but kind of glad just to have a rookie of one of them. I don't always care too much. Don't want to get total crap grades, but I'm okay with not the highest grades. Steve Carlton, player that I really liked when I was young. Here's a PSA 7, just an incredible picture. Willie McCovey, again, one of those guys that's sort of like I don't know how to put it, like the Bryce Harper or the Mookie Betts, assuming they continue playing well, of their generation. Just like amazing players that, you know, they're not necessarily in that top, you know, absolute top caliber. They're not the Mantles and the Ruths and the Ted Williams and things like that, but still probably top 20 players ever. I gotta mention that I think Frank Robinson absolutely fits in there. There's another Walter Payton rookie, and sometimes I'm a little OCD. If there's a player I like, I'll just buy more of them, and even if I have the cards. So someday I'll probably sell some of the dupes or trade them, but I never sell cards. It's not like I'm opposed to it. Obviously, if you want to buy cards, someone has to sell them, so I'm not opposed to it. I guess don't do it. Generally, here's another Gale Sayers. Again, I like the card, so if I see it, I think it's at a reasonable price, I'll buy it. So there's a 5. I think the SGC 5 looks nicer than this one. And then PSA recognize that they're the most valuable of the grading companies, but not always, I think, the best graders. Here's one I got way back in 2004. You can tell it has the really old label there. You know, I like the 86. Never landed up buying a Jordan. Sometimes the main, like Mantle, and even Jordan, I know I recognize he's an amazing player, but just kind of not one of my favorites. Because I do have a couple of Jordan cards. See, there's a little stain on the back, so that kind of stunk when I took it out of the safe after like 15, 16 years. I was like, hey, look, I had a PSA graded card. It's because so many of the ones I got in 2004 were like gem. They're kind of the crap rating graders, and actually those weren't bad. I cracked some of them and did eventually send them in, and though people will make fun of their grading and say they overgrade, they were actually probably the most accurate. Like I had like a Gary Carter rookie and a couple other GMAs that graded well. Here's one of the cards that, this is why I'm not a fan of PSA. Can't remember if this is one of the newer ones I got post-COVID or back in 2004, but I think at 5, this is just like completely overgraded. It's in pretty rough shape. I was a Red Sox fan growing up, but I did, respected Reggie Jackson, so I wanted to have one of his rookie cards. Realized 5 probably should get a little higher grades on them, but I'm not thinking of it always from a business point of view, but kind of think like, hey, I want to have a certain amount of exposure. How much do I really want to spend on Reggie Jackson cards? And 5 seem to have fit the bill. Do like LeBron's, again, one of the modern players, kind of a LeBron fan. I think he's actually a good person. I mean, he's obviously an amazing player. He's had great longevity. Hopefully he'll break the scoring record. It's currently November 2022. I believe he's injured. Not a huge basketball fan overall. This is not a super rare card. It's just a Topps Chrome rookie, but and he has a lot of stuff actually to help in Cleveland, and he has opened up some schools and things like that. So it's a decent card, and certainly wouldn't say I need to. I don't necessarily look at cards as investments, and I realize, you should be diversified. You should buy different sports and have some vintage and some modern, and probably vintage people always promote as being safer, but sometimes it gets a little bit boring, vintage. While there's safety in knowing that the player completed their career, they're not going to get hurt or anything like that, you kind of lose the connection to them. CSG, might send this to get the new CSG slab. It was one of the cards I think I got years ago and sent in recently, but just like Robin Yount. There's some of those 75 cards, the Yount, Brett, Schmidt was 73. I'll probably eventually I have a crappy Dwight Evans, 1973 rookie, Jim Rice, Fred Lynn, just lots of players from that era that they were in their primes when I was a kid and thought they were amazing. Johnny Bench was a little bit past his, I wouldn't say past his prime, he was a little bit older then, but I have one of his cards coming up. Another CSG, Topps Mini is an 8. No, people don't really like the minis, but I like them. This is before they had 8 zillion parallels. Someone at Topps just said, hey, let's make this card smaller. And that's what they did. They didn't change the colors around, they just made it smaller. A couple more CSGs. He said these are in no particular order. Have a couple of Joe Montana rookies. I think he was an amazing quarterback. For football, I do have Jerry Rice rookie. That was one of the ones I bought years ago. Same thing with this. Not in the best grades, but still decent. I have a few Joe Montana rookies. There's a Bradshaw rookie. Probably at some point, this is one of the cards that I'd be like, okay, if I could sell this, I might sell it. Not a huge fan of Terry Bradshaw. He's kind of you hear him reporting and not one of my favorites. But here is one of my favorites. Again, you see I have a Frank Robinson back there. We'll get those at the end. Here's a Frank Robinson. BBG, definitely sells at a discount. This one's off center, which people aren't going to like, but I think it's in decent condition. I have a few Frank Robinson rookies. People say he's underrated and undervalued. I think he's underrated as a player, but as far as being valued as a card, there's no exact formula. And, he sells at a pittance of Mantle, the way like Machado sells for a tiny amount of Mantle, and Tim Duncan sells for a minor amount of Jordan. And there's just, you can't always say that. It's not like there's an exact formula. Like take the number of, home runs they hit and divide by the number of years, and take, things like WAR kind of help, but there's players with like high WAR that just aren't really worth that much and that people don't care too much about. And Frank Robinson is definitely one of those guys with over, I think he has like 120 WAR. I think he was the first black manager. It's an amazing story. I remember he got arrested for having a gun, watching a little documentary on him. And he fought back, and again, that book, Ball 4. I get a lot of my opinions of players based on that book. Jim Bouton, sorry, I'd forgotten his name earlier on, and there's like, he was a competitor, Robinson. I mean, he fought, and he was an amazing player, I think, and an impressive guy. Yaz is a CSG 6 in the new slab. This is one of the ones I got, years ago, back in 2004, bought it raw. It's actually kind of nice looking, and I had originally sent it into CSG, and I got the authentic. And it's kind of like, didn't look trimmed or anything. They didn't give details on why I got the A on it. And there's a little like that kind of snow, but this is actually some pretty crisp colors, which I like. So I was like, okay, well, I'll just crack it and resend it. PSA was just too long of a wait, and again, I'm not a big fan of PSA, so it was expensive, so I sent it to CSG, and I got the 6, which was nice. Another Joe Montana, here's an 8. Got a few of those. Here is a Lou Brock. Lou Brock, this card I like. Kind of reminds me of kind of a weird story, seemingly unrelated, but the first time I got room service when I was with my wife, and it was one of those times, if you grow up not being super wealthy, something like room service seemed really fancy. And I remember we were, it was late and we were in our rooms. We were, relatively young before we were married, and just thinking like, oh, how are we going to get food? And kind of looking at each other and smirking and saying like, oh, we could get room service. And you kind of think that's one of the things that like, oh, that's crazy. And that's something that you can do. If you have money, you can pay for it. This Brock was one of those cards I got, and I was like, wow, it'd be cool to have a Lou Brock rookie, and saw it on eBay. And I think this one was I got years ago, and just being like, oh, well, I can do that. I can buy it. So the first time you buy I don't know, like a vintage card or a card that's a little more expensive, there's sort of like, not saying nervousness, but like, oh, I didn't realize I could do that. You almost get something like a mental block. I, was used to growing up and buying cards for, Bob Horner rookie, I remember was like $3. And, even I can't remember what I paid for the cards. And mainly I was just opening packs when I was a kid, and you'd trade with other people. So the thought of getting a rookie card of a Hall of Famer, of someone that like you remember them late in their career, just seemed like bizarre. And that I was like, hey, you almost get a little smirk. You're like, I can buy this. Like there's no money inside. I remember just buying it and being kind of excited for it. So seems kind of weird, but that's what Lou Brock always reminds me of. Here's another one that I got. I like this card. I like Steely Dan also, and Deacon Jones is mentioned in one of their songs. Probably not super valuable, only a 7, but a lot of the cards that I had got from years ago and then got them graded, like I have a bunch of not a bunch, probably like 10 cards that are 5s. I had like Ricky Henderson rookie, Ozzie Smith rookie, Carlton Fisk rookie. I think I had like 2 of those. We probably shouldn't have even sent in to get graded, but I did. Wasn't the best financial move, but not the end of the world. Speaking of Ricky Henderson, here's an 8. Later on I got an 8. Remember getting this off a guy on eBay that didn't have many ratings, so that was a good deal. That was definitely the card when I was a kid. I remember just having a bunch of, having the binder and the corners would be beaten up, and there wasn't any detailed analysis of like the grade. It was just sort of like, yeah, this isn't that great, but another Montana rookie. And Montana fan, a few of those. Here's a Yaz rookie. When sort of in between when I got the Yaz that I bought years ago ungraded, when I got that back authentic, it was kind of pissed. I was like, oh man, I kind of really wanted a graded Yaz rookie. I mean, I don't care, but I just ended up buying a graded one instead. And then later on I got a second one, so who knows, maybe at some point obviously I'll sell them, but such a pain in the butt to probably like sell and package things. I'm pretty lazy. I just like getting cards in the mail and that's it. Even grading cards, I'll do it once in a while, but I think I've only done it once or twice. It's just sort of a hassle, and I always get nervous that something's going to happen to them. Joe Morgan, great second baseman. Another guy over 100 WAR. This card always looks like, I think I have a 5 of this one also. It always looks like it's undergraded. Like certain years, the cards just look like they're generally in good condition. And this is one of them. But I like that card. Again, probably some of these cards are, people are going to look at them and say like, oh, it's obvious they're off center. They're like 70-30 or something. I don't always notice them. Carlton Fisk, just a player that I liked when I was a kid. That's in an 8. I think I have a couple of like raw rookies of him. Bought a while back, and not certainly not one of the top Hall of Famers, but amazing player from Boston. Has the iconic home run when he was running down the first baseline, waving it to go fair. Johnny Bench is another one of those cards. If I would have told my 8-year-old self that, hey, one day I would have a Johnny Bench rookie, I think I would have been like, that's pretty cool. I would have thought I was, wow, I must have become successful if I can buy a Johnny Bench rookie. Interesting, the logic of a youngster, if you could revisit your young self as an adult. Another Walter Payton rookie, getting close to the end here. A couple of these are doubles of things we had. Harmon Killebrew, you can tell there's certain players that I liked, and then I upgraded the card, and at some point, I always say at some point I'll sell them. Probably won't sell them. Here's a normal-sized George Brett, not the mini. I really like that 75 set. And the cards here, I'll kind of rotate the box once in a while. These are cards that I like looking at. Again, probably, it's certainly a little more valuable. Here's a Willie Stargell rookie. I was like Willie Stargell. I remember that's kind of the first World Series understanding and watching as a kid. I think it was in '79. The We Are family and Stargell and Dave Parker and Kent Tekulve. I mean, we'd always try to replicate the way Kent Tekulve pitched. He had that weird, like him and Quisenberry almost pitched underarm, and then you tried doing it, and your coach would tell you like, "What the hell are you doing? Don't throw normal. You're not a major leaguer. You're gonna hurt your arm." And Dr. J is another one that just one of the basketball cards that I kind of like. This one's off center, but cool card. 3 cards I put in the back. I've mentioned before. Frank Robinson's my favorite. Here's another one. This one got the OC qualifier. It's an 8, and it's really sharp. Like, I just think it's a great looking card. I like Frank Robinson. I was psyched when I saw this. I was like, hey, this guy has the OC qualifier, but it's not that much off center by my eyes. I mean, I can tell certainly it's not well centered, both left to right more so than up and down, but I don't know, didn't upset me that much. Again, when you see this card compared to, not to say you can't always say like compared to Mantle, like he's nothing compared to Mantle, but literally for a few $100, like you look at these prospects and their cards are more like a J-Rod card, literally costs more than that. Like Frank Robinson, arguably one of the top, maybe not top 5, maybe top 10 baseball players of all time. Broke the color barrier as a coach, just amazing. And you know, for like $500, you can get, I can't remember exactly what I paid, but it wasn't that, it was under, absolutely was under 1,000, was under 800 even, somewhere between 500 and 700. Getting that card, I was like, I'm happy with that. Jim Brown, probably send this in at some point to get reslabbed in the new SGC slab. A little nerve-wracking always sending them in, but that's another crisp card that the vintage guys will say, hey, it's dumb, you shouldn't be buying off-centered vintage, but you know, I like it. I'd rather have it clean and nice crisp corners, nice registration, not too much snow, nice and clean, which it is on both sides, and it is off-center a little bit, but 6.5 for a 58 Jimmy Brown rookie seems perfect for me. And last, it's probably my most valuable card. And I do have some player collection cards that those are super, you know, modern cards are going to be more volatile than these. And this is one that this card is so crisp and clean looking. Again, off center. I know that's not well received, but I just really liked it. You can even look up close. You can't really see, but you can see just how the colors are just amazing on this one. And I was like, wow, that's a nice clean card. So the back, same thing. You know, it's just nice and clean. And SGC is obviously, each company kind of has their things that they're a little bit tougher on, and they seem to be tough on centering. So I'm not even sure. I mean, this might get like a 7 OC if I sent it to PSA, but I definitely wouldn't do that. I would never want to crack this out, nor would I even send it in like this and have them try to crack it, because I'd be nervous something would go wrong. I like it. Sort of interesting. I don't have that much of a connection to that card. When I say connect, like there's certain players I just like. Keep that up there instead of me talking, since it's kind of a nice card to end with. Yeah, vintage, kind of so-so. I still like them. I don't buy that many vintage. Of course, they're more expensive. So if you buy, I'm going to buy some, you know, Harpers and Trouts. Trouts are certainly pretty expensive, though he's come down a lot. You know, but maybe I was thinking about buying like a Musial. Stan Musial, I think he was an amazing player and a cool guy. Maybe buying one of his cards for vintage. I like the Bowman rookie more than the Leaf rookie. He's just kind of staring at the camera. It's kind of neat, sort of like someone that made it. It's sort of, you know, this young person with lots of potential. So that's probably about the only other vintage card that I want. Not, again, kind of become less interested in vintage, even recognizing it's what most people would consider a safer investment. So anyways, those are the cards that are in my box. Some of the more valuable ones, I'll probably rotate through them because it's fun to look at different ones, and I'll put them back in the collection. I'll take out, I don't know, some of the other cards I have, like Minnie Minoso rookie, or even like Andre Dawson I liked, and Dale Murphy. See if Dale Murphy gets into the Hall of Fame. Certainly some of them are less valuable, but a couple higher grades, and just different cards to look at as kind of some of the favorite ones. So that's it. Appreciate everyone from watching, and you know, always feel free to subscribe or give it a thumbs up. Thanks. Have a good day.